This is Gemara Baba Basra, Daf Kuf Mem Tes. So learning should bring an incredible zchut rafua shlema for Tinok ben Mrim Ahuva b'siyata d'shmaya the koyach ha'Torah. Talmud Torah kenegei kulam Torah b'rabim should bring an incredible rafua shlema. We're holding on the bottom of Kuf Mem Ches Amid Beis, and until now we've been discussing a shchimera and how the shchimera can give away his properties. Most particularly, he was giving away his properties via giving it to other people. Now the Gemara continues in a similar but unrelated vein. Ibai Lahu asks the Gemara, Hikdish kol nechasav v'amat. This time he did not give away his properties, but rather he was the makdish his properties. He gave everything away to the Beis Hamikdash, and then what happens is v'amad, he gets better. Ma'u, what is the halach? Mi amrina kol gabi hektish kamaro makni. Do we say that all the svaras that we've been given were to give something to a person, but maybe klape hektish, there's an automatic gemiras das that one automatically wants to fully give it to the Beis Hamikdash, or of course the other side of the coin, Ol Dilma, or maybe Kol Gabi Navshei Loi Gamar Umakni. Or no, do we say that with regard to himself, yes, he wants to give it to the Beis Hamikdash, but he always has the escape hatch that he wants it for himself? Question number one. Question number two. Another way to give away your properties is Hefker Kol Nachasamahu. You didn't give it to any particular person. You didn't give it to the Beis Hamikdash. You were mafkir your properties. Mi amrinan kiven daflaniim kashirim gamaromakni. Do we say that there's a svara that Hefker is stronger? Why is Hefker stronger? Because everyone in the world has equal rights to it, and therefore the person views it as a chesed. He views it, he's doing something nice. Even Aniyim could get it. So therefore, maybe there's a Gemira Das. He fully wants to give it away. Or no, Klapi himself, he always wants to hold on to it. And continues the Gemara, this time he wasn't mafkirit, but he proactively said he's giving everything to just to the aniyim. Certainly wants to give away tzedakah. Umakni and tzakinyin. Again, so three shaylas, hektish, hefker, and aniyim. The Gemara concludes, Teku, we're going to have to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi to answer all these questions. Lishna achrina, another lasha in restating basically we just said. Hektish kol nechasamahu, hif kol nechasamahu, chilik kol nechasamahu. And in all these three questions, according to the second lashon, we say, Teku nachamol, we have to wait for Eliyahu Hanavi. Continues the Gemara, Amar Rav Sheshas. Again, the same theme, Shchimera. Yitol v'yizke v'yachzik v'yikne. Someone says, this Shchimera, this person on his deathbed says, Yitel, someone should take my properties. Yizke, he should have ownership. Yachzik, he should take possession. Yikne, he should acquire. Kulan, Lashain, Mataneim, these are all the shainais of matana that he wants to give it to them. Bimas nitatana, in a brisa we learned. Af yachsin v'yarit b'roi liyarshai. Even if he said yachsin or yaris as well, are ways of him saying b'roi liyarshai. If he said those l'shainais, klap a someone who is potentially fit to yarshin, that person will get it. And it's going with Rabbi Yochanan and Breika, who we've seen a while ago back in Daf Kof Lamed, that says that if he's giving something to someone who's Ra'ili Yarshai, then he is able to. Ibai Lahu, the Gemara is a Shaila, as we turn over to Kof Mem Tes Amar Beis. Yehene Bahen. Ask the Gemara, what happens if the Shchimara says Yehene Bahem? he says so and so should get hana from my properties. Didn't have a kulu matana kamar. Does he mean that this guy should get benefit? Meaning what? He's giving it to him as a matana. Or maybe in the second line of Kufmem Tesaman Aleph, Lesnayu Minayu Midi Kamar. Or maybe what he means to say is that the person should get benefit from it right now, but not necessarily does he have a kinyan in the item. Continues the Gemara, if he said a similar lashon. First lashon was what? He said someone should get hana from him. Second lashon is he says yira behen mahu, yamod behen mahu, yishain behen mahu. Three more lashainas that if a person says he should be seen in my property, or if the person says yamod, he should stand, yishan, he should rely, are all these lashainas. A matana, says the Gemara, Ibayilu. Continues the Gemara, excuse me, concludes the Gemara, Teku. Continues the Gemara, Ibayilu. Machar kol nechasa mahu. So we've been discussing a matna shchimera and the ramifications if he gets better, that the matana is chayzer. Says the Gemara now, what is the story if he went and he actually sold all his estate, fire sale, and then he gets better? Do we also say that he can be chayzer on that which he gave away? Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Im Amad Einoi Chayzer. No, if he gets back, he doesn't retract. But V'zivin Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Amad Chayzer. So we have two statements in the name of Rav. Eloi Pligi, says the Gemara, and even though they sound to be opposites, there's no contradiction. If he still has the cash, he sold the property for $1 million, and that $1 million is sitting, then he gets better, give back the $1 million and get back your properties. But if he took that $1 million and he went and he utilized it to pay up a chayv, doesn't have the cash anymore, then the sale would not go back. Ibayilu continues to Gemara with another shayla. Shchimara shehoida ma'u. We're 10 lines down. The first one line is shehoida. What if a shchimara admits that a certain property is not his? What's the halacha? Do we say that, he sees death in front of him, so he's being Maidal Ames or not? Tashema, says the Gemara, Isser Giura Avale, Teresh Alve Zuzi, Isser Giura, that was his name, he was a ger, had 12,000 zuz, Bei Rav, the Rav was holding on to. Isser falls sick. Says the Gemara, Ramari Brei, Ramari, son of Isser, Hayrasai Shaloi Biktusha, Valedasa Biktusha. Ramari was conceived while his father was a guy, and then he was born after his father was Megayer. Why is that relevant? Because that means that he's not really able to be Irish. Ubei Rav Have, and Rav Mari is in the yeshiva of Rav. So in Bei Rav, in the yeshiva of Rav is this guy Rav Mari. Rav Mari's father is deathly ill. Rav Mari knows he's not really able to Yarish, and the cash right now is sitting in the hands of Rava. So says the Gemara, Amar Rava, Heichi naktinu Rav Mari lahanu zuzi. How could Rav Mari be kind of this money? Rava is saying, I have 12,000 zuz of Isser. What happens if Isser dies? Rava wonders aloud. Says Rava, Ibi Yerusha. Now Rava's going to go out, go and speak out all the potential ways that one would think this Isser could get the cash, and explain why they're not so feasible, or they just don't work. Ibi Yerusha, you can tell me, what do you mean? He's going to die, and his son, Ramari, will Yarshin. Says the Gemara, Labar Yerushi, as we spoke about. because he was he doesn't get Yerusha. Even Matana Shchimerak Yerusha Shavi Rabbanon. You're gonna say, what do you mean? Let Isser give it away as a Matna Shchimerak. Doesn't work because it has the rules of Matan, of Yerusha. That what? Kol echad yiseh b'Yerusha yiseh b'matana. Kol echad less b'Yerusha less b'matana. It only works if you're a bar Yerusha. Even Mishicha, if you're going to tell me, let Ramari pull the money, let him do an actual Maisa Kinyan. Let's now Gabe. Ramari's in Yeshiva Beirav. Can't do it. Ibe Chalip do Kini Chalip and Ein Matbein Nikne Chalipin. The halacha is you can't be kind of cash with Chalipin. Iagav Karka, make a Kinyan Karka. Let's Layara. The problem is you can't do a Kinyan Karka. Why? Because Isser doesn't own any land. Even Maimad Shlosh didn't give it away. Ishalach li loya zelna. If you're going to tell me, B'maimad Shlosh, I'm not going to give it away in presence of 3 people. Ishalach li loya zelna. Isser can't do this. Why? Because says Rava, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to be part of this Maimad Shloshim. So therefore, Rava realizes that when Isser dies, he, Rava, is going to have full possession of this 12,000 zuz. Maskiv la Ravika Breder Avami. Ravika says, 1 second, Rava. Amai, why are what you saying is true? Veludi Isser, the Halin Zuzi. Let him admit, Veludi. Let him admit, of course, this is why this whole long story came in over here. Let Isser admit, the Halin Zuzi, that this cash, let him admit that this cash is not his, and rather it's Ramari's. And then Ramari will be kaina via the mission. So we had a shaila. If you look up halfway down the Amid, what is the halach of Shchimeras Maida? After the whole story, comes to Rav Ika. He says, I don't get it. Let Isser be Maida, that's not his money, and everything will be good in the handy. Concludes the Gemara, the Hachi Nafak Hoidisu Mibei Isser, as this discussion is happening, Lamaisa, the house of Isser came out that Isser was Maida that belongs to Ramari. Ikbid Rava. Rava was not happy. Amar Komigamri Tainasal Inshi Mafsidili. Says Rava, you're teaching kindness to people and you're causing me a loss. Rava was upset that he was not going to get these 12,000 zuz. Now, let's just be honest. Sounds a little bit different. Difficult to understand what Rava is trying to circumvent the halacha. Okay, so Taisus over here points out, and other Rishayim point out that Rava was really going to give it to Ramari. However, he just was trying to figure out the appropriate way to effect that kinyan. Okay, but says the Gemara, seemingly that the Haidah would work. And that was the way for Isser to give over the 12,000 zuz to Ramari. We move over to a small Amid Beis, Kuf Mem Tes Amid Beis, and we quote the Mishnah we saw in Daf Kuf Mem Vav. Shayir Karka Kol Shu Matanasa Matana. If any time the Shchimera kept some of the land for himself, then even if he gets better than Matana, is a good Matana. Kamar Kol Shu, what does that mean? Amar Rav Yehuda Marav, Karka Kidei Parnasasi. Means that if the Shchimera held on to cash enough to support himself, then even if he gets better, everything he gave away stays given away and he does not get it back. Doesn't have to be karka, it could be even metaltlin, enough money to support himself. Amar Rav Zeira, said Rav Zeira, how incredible are these halachas, are these members' teachings of these elders of Rav and Rav Yirmi Arba. Karka taimamai, what is the whole reason for karka? And if the guy gets better, he does not get back his stuff. Why? Because he has what to rely upon. And therefore, even if he gets better, we don't say it's a chazara and that which gave away. It's the same svara. So comments Rav Zera, he likes that which Rav Yudah Marav says, Karka Ktei Panasasai. He likes what Rav Yirmiyah Bar Abba says, Metaltalin, because the whole Yesod is that the Shchimera is going to have how to live. It says the Yomara, that's how Rav Zera took it. But Maskal Rav Yosef came along and he was not happy. But my Kavanasai says Rav Yosef, you're telling me this is good? What's precise? Man Damar Metaltalin. Karka Tanan, the kasha that we're all wondering. The Mishnah says Karka. Man Damar Ktei Nisasai. And even according to the first Shita, excuse me, that said it means Karka, but how much land? Enough to support himself. Kol Shu Tanan. What did the Mishnah say? Karka Kol Shu. So both Shitas are Shver. So Amar Le Abaye says Abaye V'chleicha Dotani Karka. Karka Dafka, what's your kasha? Just because it says Karka means it specifically. Vatanan. But we learned in a Mishnah and Peya, because you're going to Chasav Lavdoi, Yatza Ben Chayrin. You write all your properties to your Eved, he goes free. Shayir Karka Kolshu, this also we have this in Gain. Shayir Karka Kolshu, if you retain some of the land, Lo Yatza Ben Chayrin. Shemin Aimer. He always goes free unless you said everything is given to my Eved. Unless he says except for 1/10,000th of it. If he says except for one little bit, then we assume that that one little bit is referring to the Eved. Let's turn over to Kuf Nun Amud Aleph. Let's just finish up the sentence we're middle of talking about. We're middle of discussing how the word karka doesn't have to mean karka. On top of Kuf Nun, V'amar Avdim Bar Yosef, Amar Rav Elazar, also metaltalin, shiur itzel eved. Chachamim said that if he has metaltalin, that as well is considered a shiur, as well considers like significant klapid eved. V'lo yasa metaltalin shiur itzel ksuba. So what do we see? We see that even though it says karka, the Rav Divi Bar Yosef explains that even metaltalin would be enough. So says the Gemara, we have no reason to say that by us karka has to be dafka. Answers the Gemara, and what else will conclude? Hasam b'dinu d'lasnei karka. Over there, be'etzem, it didn't have to say karka at all. Excuse me. I did done a reisha, and over there, the reisha said, Rav Akiva Amar karka kolshu, chayeves bepeya, ubebikurim. Over there, the Mishnah subject was karka, and therefore, whereas it's not going to be a riot to us, because by us it says karka kolshu. So Gemara is leaving you with a kasha, the chayrat shver to say metaltalin. Stop over here, and we're going to continue with the next kasha was, how can you say kol shu means kedei barnasasai? Chayr or kol shu means a little bit. Pick it up from here. B'siyata dishmai.